Hello everyone, today I am talking about identifying the gifted English language learners at Veritas and giving some potential solutions for how we can help those students. The first thing I'd like to talk about is why I'm talking about what I'm talking about. The first thing is that due to some differences in culture between America and China, and due to a lack of teacher training, the special needs students, including gifted, are not identified at Veritas. We don't know who has what. We all have some feelings about it, but they are unidentified in any professional, formal sense. Also, we have no structures or programs, so even if these students were identified, we would not be able to give them any assistance beyond individual teacher gut feeling type things. I think that with a minor program, something specifically for our department, that we can understand and have things of value for these students and add to their educational careers inside and outside of class. I have a list here of what makes a gifted student. There are different assessments throughout the United States. There are different opinions of what a gifted student is. I've gotten all of this from a handbook from Iowa, and it's some pretty standard stuff. But one of the most important things about this and why I'm focusing on gifted English language learners is the kinds of ability tests used in Western schools cannot be used to assess other cultures, especially when comparing American values of giftedness, which involve being outspoken, being critical, with Confucian society values of giftedness, which are usually more subdued and academic based. So I had the list of gifted student things, but I'd like to not focus on those so much and focus on the traits of gifted English language learners. Just what makes a gifted English language learner, because at Veritas we are 100% English language learners. They acquire a second language rapidly. They have a high ability in mathematics, which, as Ming-Chi would say, that doesn't apply to our school at all. They all have a high ability in mathematics. They display a mature sense of diverse cultures and languages. They can go in between both languages very easily. They demonstrate an awareness of American cultural norms and expressions. They can translate at an advanced level orally. And they can navigate the behaviors of both cultures. And so these are the things that make a gifted ELL stand out beyond other students. It's not just that they are good at English. It's not just that they like to talk. It's an understanding of both the language and the culture and how they pick up on it very easily. A student that I'd say could potentially fit these are those of you who teach Jeffrey. His academics may not be very high, but culturally he does switch between American and Chinese culture very well. Here's what some of the research says about gifted ELLs. The first, ELLs are underrepresented in gifted programs. I'll have the data later, but only 3% of all gifted students in America are English language learners. ELLs have fewer opportunities in a normal school setting to be noticed by their teachers. We are very fortunate in that because everyone's an English language learner, they have a chance to be noticed by us, which is why we could be doing some real good. And like I stated earlier, traditional concepts of giftedness don't align with a cultural concept of giftedness. Here are some statistics for what gifted programs in China already look like. Now, gifted ELLs in China, I've broadened this to just gifted students in China because there is a very small percentage of English language learner, all English schools in China. The first, there is no law in China that guarantees rights or access to gifted programs for gifted students in China. There are only 10 schools in mainland China with a gifted education program. We could be number 11, which, if we're better than any of them, puts us in the top 10. China really only focuses on academic giftedness, not creativity or performative giftedness. And in China, usually if a student is gifted, they're not put in a program, they're just accelerated. They're just put into the next grade, they're put into the next subject, they're moved along the path that all the students are on. This doesn't quite help us understand gifted ELLs in general, though. So I wanted to provide some context for America and how it might be similar to China. Only about 6% of American students are in gifted and talented programs. So for our school, it wouldn't be very many at all. And only about 3% of that 6%, so very, very small percentage, of all students are gifted English language learners. Here's what I think Veritas is already doing for our gifted students. And it is very telling that although we do not have a gifted program, we are doing things for who I would consider gifted students. Tom in 9th grade has some behavioral issues, but he is a textbook definition of what a gifted student is. And what we are doing is we are accelerating him into AP courses. We are giving him independent study time, and we are giving him the choice in what to participate in. He gets to choose whether or not to do sports. He gets to choose whether or not to go to certain classes. He gets to choose even to go to school-wide events. And Angelo in the 12th grade, we are giving him time to do independent research. Part of that is because we don't have a 12th grade, so he has to be doing something. And he also has the same choice of participation that Tom has. So we're not doing much, if anything at all. We're just keeping these students occupied when they would probably just be going to a different school if we weren't. Here's what I think we can do as a department to help these students. Step one is we can all recommend potential students. So if you have a student who you think might be gifted and talented, we can recommend them to, I guess in this case it'd be me as head of the department, and I'd test them for gifted and talented. I'd test them along cognitive, affective, and behavioral areas. Not every student is high in all of them, but a high score in one or two of them could denote some level of giftedness. After that, we could interview the students who we deem to be gifted, and those students we'd ask about what areas would they like to enrich in their academics, give them an agency, a choice to drive forward with something. And if necessary, we could even have an out-of-class enrichment activity so they're not distracting your class. And it could be part of club time or as part of study hall. I could meet with these students once a week and talk to them about their independent enrichment activities. Here's some possible enrichment activities that I think students could really do. The main thing here is that the students need something tangible. I want them to make something tangible to move forward with and show to their peers, to their elders, to authority figures, and so on. The first is an independent research project with an intent to publish and present. Something along the lines of a junior thesis, getting them ready for that level of interaction. Academic competitions, this would require some research on my part, talking to some of the Chinese staff about potential academic competitions. Vertical enrichment, for those of you who might want to keep the child in class and keep them moving along what your curriculum is, you could come up with some sort of enrichment activity that aligns with your class standards. So taking that broad independent choice and shrinking it for them a little bit. Art-infused projects are students have a definite split between their artsy classes and their non-artsy classes, giving a student an idea to make a portfolio aligned with history would be very interesting. And like I said, making a portfolio, having these students build something year to year, so at the end, wherever they're going, they have a portfolio of gifted projects that they can show off as what they accomplished in our program. And these are my sources. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have gotten something out of this. In conclusion, I believe we have gifted students at Veritas. I believe we are not doing anything for these gifted ELLs at Veritas, and I believe we could be doing something, especially within our department. Thank you guys so much, and I hope to hear back from you on the feedback forms.